Ladies and gentlemen, days on market for properties for sale has doubled and tripled in some suburbs of Sydney and in most parts. So we're going to talk about today marketing. We brought in marketing expert to talk about marketing for property, and when you pre-pack it with marketing, does it get a better price? Stay tuned.
Good morning, Marco.
Morning. How are you? Yeah, good. Expert extraordinaire. Now, Pat.
God. That's the marketing degree on her back.
Yes. And you guys have been overworked in the with marketing with properties. We're doing more things than ever to get stuff sold. Where traditionally a real estate agent used to pre-pack it, great photos, great advertising, 7 days, 14 days out the door. But now that's not the case.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it now is just, I think marketing's such a big factor in property now. Like, it's not just putting up an ad and of just showing the place. It's about what you do to really, like, what you can do to market it, and in the packaging of the ad, really make it something that people are going to want to go to and make that first step to have a look at the property.
And there's competition out there, so you've got to look sharp. You've got to be on point. It's got to be the best of the best of the best. Now, in marketing, you were saying to me off air, there's a whole bunch of P's that people talk about in marketing. Can we go through those?
Yeah, well, I'll share my screen. Okay. So if you look at that, it's the 7 P's of marketing. It's one of the first things they teach you in Marketing 101. But pretty much any business that that's selling like a process, or like a real estate agency, sort of has these 7 P's. So the product, promotion, process, people, price, place, and physical evidence. Yeah. So the one we're probably going to be talking about today is the product and promotion, which is what makes the packaging.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So
now, in our industry, why do agents struggle with this so much? Because we, when a property is not sold or not rented, we have a lot of success. We call it a cleanup. Afterwards. We look at most of these 7 P's. There's 3 particular P's that we work with. And we look at that and we work with it, mold it, shape it, give it love, pre-package it, and then it walks out the door. Why isn't this done more in the industry, and how come agents are? Because it seems like agents, after 4 weeks of a campaign, if they just do the same thing, they don't change, they don't improve, doesn't sell.
Yeah, well, I think that sort of goes back to the process, if we're looking at that on this diagram, because the process is one thing that people, I think, are reluctant to change if it's worked, and especially in real estate where it's a market that's changing a lot. That's probably one really important thing that does need changing, is the process of how you're marketing a product. Sometimes it's just popping it in REA, then it's selling. But then times like now, as you said before, we're seeing properties that are staying on the market for longer. You sort of have to look at these 7 P's and see what you can change. And when you do change that, you will see a different outcome, because the process isn't going to be the same every time. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So what would be the tips that you've picked up in the last 3 months, particularly with our teams, in order to repurpose stuff marketing wise to get stuff sold? What would you give people? What tips would you give people out there? I think Lisa, under the guise of Novak Properties, has said being great at marketing is an art.
Yeah, so I think promotion is probably the best place to start. if you want to change one of these things in the 7Ps, if you're having a property that's staying on the market for a while. Because promotion, it's probably one of the easiest ones to change. If you're looking at the other ones, like the product, for example, you can't really change a house if someone comes up to you and wants to sell it. Place, you can't change that either. I think it's how you promote it, how you make it look, and what angle you're selling it at. So I know we've got one on the market right now in Freshwater that's it's a very cute little home, and the way that we've marketed is that it's a home with a lot of character in comparison to a lot of the newer apartment buildings we have. We market them in completely different ways. One's for more modern design for a particular person, but then a home, you want to have that aspect of family and history behind it. So I think with every single thing, you got to promote it in a different way because every property is different.
Now, I think as a consumer, I'd find it pretty hard to believe that there'd be difference between agents when it comes to marketing, when it comes to the 7Ps that we're talking about. Is it really going to make a difference? And I always like to go back to Apple, and I always like to go back to that feeling that I get when I open an Apple product, when I unbox an Apple product. And I always think to myself, when you think to yourself, the experience can't get any different. Opening a cardboard box is opening a cardboard box. Opening a mobile phone is opening a mobile phone. That there is a unbelievable experience in the difference when you open an Apple product to any other product. And we're not talking perfumes or handbags or anything like that. We're talking a bloody mobile phone. They have made that experience uplifting for people. So guys and girls, if you're thinking about property and you think that the agent cannot make that experience better for a buyer, think about the Apple box.
Yeah, well, talking about Apple, I'm just going to pick up another little diagram I have here. But if you look, this is different brand archetypes, so that it sort of goes into promotion. And if you're looking into changing your marketing a bit, it's about knowing who your brand is and really reinforcing it at every single stage of those 7Ps. So in the physical evidence, going into an Apple shop, it's all white, it's all clean. They've got all the people working there, all the experts. Everything across the board goes back to their brand archetype and the character that they're trying to portray. Providing structure, I feel is a really good way of summarizing what Apple's doing as a brand.
Providing structure. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I think so. Their brand archetype is creator, which is innovating and providing security. So when you go into an Apple shop, when you get an Apple product, you know what you're getting. It's not a thing of being confused and having to look up manuals. Same sort of thing with IKEA. I think they really know their brand and they're really showing it in every single aspect of their marketing.
You know what? That structure and that consistency is so important. I think Lisa's talked about convenience as well, but I think when people can expect that within your brand, that's when you know what you're consuming. And again, I know I'm harping on about the packaging for Apple, but you just know that it is quality by that structure and the way they take you through that. It's the same every time. It's impressive, whatever you buy.
And I think that's one thing with real estate that you really want to get. I think consistency is probably one thing I probably ramble on about all the time, but it's really important because that's why look at Google reviews, for example. If someone's got 5 stars and then one 1-star review, you got to look at the 5 stars. It's about consistency all across the board. You're not going to take that 1-star review from 1 out of 400 people and take that for granted. I think it's just making sure your branding and everything's coming throughout the whole process, I think is very important.
Now, what do you think about raw? At least saying sometimes people just overdo marketing when you just need to sell raw authenticity.
Yeah, well, that comes back to trust, which I know we were talking about a lot last week, is that if you're overdoing it, like for example, if you're editing photos of a property and eliminating every single thing in the property. So, for example, if you're putting timber floors in a room that's carpeted and then going into that room when you're actually seeing the property and it's not there, you have to be honest as at the same time, but just really reinforcing the things that are really great without over marketing it to a point where you're not being honest. So it's about, I think with freshwater, it's that freshwater property that we were talking about. It's really authentic, and we're being really true with the marketing. It's like, what's the point of lying about something when you could talk about how great like things? I'm rambling a lot today, but I think it's just being honest and picking the things that are really going to resonate with people in a property.
It is. And look, I also think with what I'm experiencing as well as an agent is people are coming to me with properties that are unsold, and they're saying, "What do you reckon?" And I think it's a little bit like going to a doctor and saying to the doctor, "Look, there's a problem here. Can you have a look?" When I look at campaigns that agents have done, I find that they haven't maxed out in all areas of marketing. I find they've left stuff on the table, and after they've set up that original campaign, photos, floor plan, and stuff like that, they haven't repurposed, remolded. It is a lie if you think you have conducted the ultimate open house on day one. You get better at selling a property the more people you take through. Fact, I know when I'm selling off the planned projects, after my 50th appointment, I'm an absolute ninja. And I know on my first appointment, I'm off the planned project, I'm fumbling through the project. Fact. So your marketing is going to actually work that same way. So as you get better in marketing and selling your campaign, as you get better at selling your campaign, so should your marketing. So it really should move with you. And the things that people are bringing up as negative points in the property, they should be entertained and mirrored in the advertising. So photography should improve, text should improve, floor plans should improve, the quality of information overall should improve, and then the price sometimes has to improve. Where you're marketing the property has to improve. It all has to keep getting better, and then you repurpose it out to the marketplace. And I think that the biggest problem, if I could leave off on today in the back of people's mind on my experience with marketing, is that if your campaign hasn't improved from the day it hit the market, you got a shit agent. And unfortunately, us agents are not used to properties sitting around longer than they used to be. So I think it's about it. You got to stay on your feet, and you got to keep moving. And we're not used to that as a real estate community, because days on market was about 14 days, and now it's more as an industry. If you price it right within the first before you hit the market, you shouldn't have a problem. But a lot of agents or sellers have priced their properties incorrectly, and that's why it's sticking around, and that's why we're looking at all this marketing a little bit more than we had to before.
Yeah, I think it's like after COVID as well, I think it's just a matter of looking at the environment right now and figuring out what people want and telling them what they want. I think that's one thing, that just reminding them. So, for example, making floor plans, having experience doing that now, I know more people are looking for extra room, home offices. That was a big thing during COVID. So just being aware of what's happening in the world and how you can apply that and just remind people. I think what we're doing with floor plans is an example of that. Like, we're just reinforcing things they already know, but it's sort of stuck in the back of their head. It's about reaching that subconscious part of the brain that's telling them to do something, I guess.
Yeah. And we're furnishing a lot of vacant properties now where proper furniture we're putting into properties. We never really had to do that as much before. So this is an example of one that we've furnished. If you saw the before photos, you'd be shocked. But after that furniture went in, the place just looked amazing. So that's That's part of marketing as well. And I reckon you're going to start to see furnished properties hit the market, professionally furnished properties hit the market a lot more than we've ever seen.
Yeah,
Gives you
and
the
I think
edge.
I think for like having consistent design as well. I know I've photoshopped a lot of like couches to be a certain color so it matched the other furniture in the room. Like just little things like that. You would see it and it wouldn't make too much difference, but after you see the before and after photos, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's the one I'd go for. The one with the black couch instead of the brown one. Like
Definitely. And it exchanged 2 weeks when other properties in the same block haven't sold in months. Yeah, that's a good one to look at. If you look at that block, I think it's 1 to 5 DY parade. There's a lot of properties on the market, and the way this was marketed was way superior to everything else. And the proof's in the pudding. Exchanged.
yeah, exactly. And like even looking at just adding the little text here. If anyone's curious about what that is, that's actually that text shows up on realestate.com. So that's the reason it looks like it's probably in the middle of the photo a bit, but when you're scrolling through realestate.com, that actually comes up on the photo. So that's another little thing. It's just standing out, figuring out what you can do to make you stand out against the competition, because it's a lot in the market at the moment.
I think also understanding your marketplace, like you're understanding that it is going to go onto realestate.com and it is going to mess around with your text on your photo, understanding what your buyer really, really, really wants and getting that information onto that first photo that they can see it. I think as agents, we forget that we have not, the buyer has not been through the property. We forget that the buyer may not be from DY and know where the property sits in DY. We forget a lot about, sometimes agents, we forget about the most basic things in our campaign that must go into our campaigns. You sort of got to have that helicopter view of the property to make it a killer campaign.
Exactly. I think it's just, picking the sweet parts and making sure you're reinforcing them, selling it to people.
Big time. Nat, anything else before we go on marketing?
No, I think just remember what you're selling. Like, tell people what you love about the property. That's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear what the buyer's telling you they should love. You've seen the property. You know what's in there. Tell them what you would love if you were a buyer. I think just being honest, and as Lisa said, just being authentic about what the property is and what it's going to give to people.
And people don't mind if it's raw, if it's telling a good story. So I think a lot of these social media videos that we do, we will walk through a property. They're not the most polished videos, but God, they're real and detailed, and geez, people love them.
Yeah. It's like celebrities. People don't care about the red carpet looks as much as they care about their private lives.
Yeah, isn't that true? Isn't that true? Thank you, legend. Everyone, I hope we helped you today.
I know, more marketing
See you,
next
Nat.
week. See you, Mark.
More marketing next Wednesday with Nat. See you, legend. Cheers. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.